Elizabeth Hashagen, welcome to our live conversation on handling the stress of the holidays. You know, there's pressure, finding that right gift, getting all your cards out on time, having a packed calendar of events for this month. And this year, there's also that added stress of trying to afford all of it. So here to help us navigate our mental health this holiday season is DrLiz Nissim-Matheis, licensed clinical psychologist and certified school psychologist, also the owner of Psychological and Educational Consulting of New Jersey. Now, do remember, we want to hear from you. For the next half hour, we will be answering your questions, so you can submit them now under the live stream of the show on our Facebook pages. So we know for a lot of people, the holidays cause that stress and anxiety. So I guess the beginning question really is, how do we take better care of ourselves if we know the stress is headed our way?
I think self-care is any time of the year has been very difficult, especially in the last couple of years. I think it's important for you as a family to sit down and think about what it is that you want to do and maintain that list in a realistic way.
All right, we did take a look at a survey from the American Psychological Association, and they say that people say their stress increases during the holidays, and we know that that can then lead to physical illnesses when you hold on to that stress and you're not sleeping or you're not eating right or things like that, but also for mental health reasons, depression, anxiety, and then substance misuse.
Well, I think a lot of people try to self-medicate and self-soothe through alcohol or other drugs, legal or not, to just help manage the stress throughout this time of the year, which is really high. We're trying to do everything that we're already doing on top of some big stressors and big to-do lists.
I want to talk a little bit about children's expectations during this time, especially we know, inflation is red hot. And, parents are, paying exorbitant amounts just to go to the grocery store. And then you get your kids, wish list for Christmas. And, it's really hard to try to balance what can I do with, what my kids want me to do.
Well, I think it's important to say to your children that there's going to be, make a wish list, but only X number of items. It can't be infinite. And that you'll choose some top items. Obviously, if there's a, Santa involved, then we make a wish list for Santa as well. And I think it's important to moderate our children's expectations because it can't be infinite and forever.
I like that. I should have done that. I already let them hand in their Christmas list. All right, let's talk a little bit for a second about college students because, it's interesting. The college kids came home, right? And now they are there, but there's this time of transition really because, yes, they're a child in your house, but they've really experienced this level of freedom they've probably never experienced before. So now navigating the dynamics of your house.
Oh, that dynamic is very new and real. And that you want to set those expectations as well of when are you coming in, how much are you communicating with me after spending 15 weeks of doing whatever you want, whenever you want, and me not really knowing. So it's, again, communication is super important of how are we going to do this and navigating that and then sticking to whatever plan you come up with.
So I guess really sitting down and saying, okay, so these are how the rules change. This is maybe what it used to be in high school. And maybe this is what I'm willing to, budge on or, kind of move on. And these are the things that, I'm not willing to do because this is my house before you run into trouble, or maybe you already have.
And even if you have, there's no reason why you can't sit down and go, hey, this isn't working for me. So let's sit down and talk about how we're going to do this in terms of when you're coming in and out, or how you're now playing a role in the family because you are a member of the family, even though you've been doing your own thing for a long time.
And I think for teenagers, that's an issue too, because their friends become so important and they don't want to miss anything. But it's like, okay, well, we're your most important. We're your family and we have traditions and things we want to do this holiday season. So how do you have that conversation?
You sit down and plan it. And I know teens are the worst at planning and having a calendar, but sit down and say, we're going to get a tree on this date. We're going to decorate the tree on this date. We're going to make Christmas dinner on this date, whatever it is, or whatever holiday you celebrate. This is when we're doing things. Please put it on your calendar And then the expectation is, as an adult, you're going to follow through.
All right. And, we all have those jam-packed calendars right now, from baking the cookies to gift exchanges and holiday parties. But then you have your normal things that are also happening, rushing your kids off to their sports or dance or whatever the case may be. So as a parent, how do you hold all of that during this time?
So I'm finding as a parent of 3 kids myself, every year we want to do something a little bit different, but we don't want to let go of what we've done the year before, which is impossible. We cannot do that. And it stresses me out. So there's, just on a very personal level, there's certain things I'm letting go of. And I'm sitting with my kids and saying, what do we want to do? And this is what we're going to do. And then everything else can not happen, because it's not realistic that we're going to live our usual jam-packed life and add a new level of expectation that we're going to do all the traditions and keep adding. We can't keep adding.
I like that. All right. How about navigating co-parenting? It's tough any time of the year, but when you have these certain things that you want your children to be with you for, and it's either not your weekend, your day, your time, how do you do that?
I'm going through that myself right now, but it's sitting down with the calendar and saying, this is what I would like to do on these days. And what are you doing, so that we're not double booking our child and making him go crazy. But it's a lot of communication, getting it on the calendar, and then sticking with it.
And then how do you do that? Because also I would think that this time of year might trigger some painful memories, because if it was last year or the year before, we all did these things together. So what kind of conversation should you be having, especially with maybe some of your smaller children, to talk about these holiday traditions and maybe how they've morphed or changed?
That's a tough one, because as a parent, you're still grieving that. And, if that's not something that you wanted, because which, goes into marriage thinking I'm going to end it at some point. It's really just being very clear and saying, this is the way we're doing things now. It's different. And there are things that you'll do with mom, and then things you'll do with dad. And our children adjust, and it's not easy for anybody, but I think it's especially hard on the parents who are making those changes and having to change their expectations for what they thought it was going to look like in the long term. But we all adjust.
Yeah, I think too, oftentimes with kids, the high expectations tends to then exacerbate like a bad behavior, and they're acting out, and they're being extra cranky, or they're reverting and crying, or whatever the case may be. So as a parent, are we trying to just name the feeling and why it's happening, or are we just being a safe space to listen to whatever they're going through?
I think taking the time to say what's going on and listening maybe to their train of thought is, I thought it was going to be this way, but it's this way. I wanted this, but this is the way it happened. And listening and validating and saying, I'm sorry. It's hard to adjust, and moving on, and not getting into that really punitive mode, because I think we're all going to be tired. But as much as you can, stick to your schedule so that it allows time to rest and to have downtime, and not jam packing our schedule. Don't jam pack your schedule.
I also want to talk about being a caregiver, especially if you're a parent, you're taking care of your children and also taking care of your parents. This national poll came out, and they took a look, and it said 36% of caregivers said they suffer from depression or anxiety, and that's 114% higher than people who are non-caregivers. That was from the Cleveland Clinic. And you take a look at that number and you think about, how hard the holidays must be when, the person you're caring for isn't able to do those things, and you're trying to make it work for everyone.
I think as women and moms especially, and even if you're not, if you're trying to balance all your worlds, and doing it at 1,000%, you're going to burn out, and you're going to feel like you're falling short. So it's really moderating those expectations of what you can do as a caregiver and a parent during the holiday season, and understanding that you're not going to be able to do it all.
I think
so it's really modifying your expectations.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, also having that emotional or mental health break, and maybe saying to somebody for the holidays, instead of what I want for Christmas is, I want some time, can you do this task for me or something, and try to give yourself that time so that you can be better at whatever it is you need to do.
Absolutely. If someone is offering to help, take it. Don't be a hero. There's no prize at the end. other than burnout. And if that's your prize, then you're going to get it. So if someone says, how can I help you? Tell them.
I had this conversation with my kids last night at dinner, so I wanted to look into it. The put the phones away, no phones at dinner kind of thing. But they research took a look at it, and children that eat with their parents end up consuming more vegetables, have higher self-esteem, and a lower risk for substance use. And unfortunately, dining together doesn't always happen. It's as much as 70% of meals in the US are eaten away from the home. So especially at this time, to try to reconnect and have that family meal again together, and what that's going to do for kind of keeping everybody on the same page.
And that's a hard one when you have teenagers or children who are independent and able to drive and who are engrossed in their social life. But trying to connect, I like to try to connect in the morning. I like to try to connect before bed. As much as possible, having a meal together, and usually you need 10 minutes to eat, and just reconnecting during that time is nice, and it's enough.
And what about keeping a journal?
I love journaling. I love the old school paper and pencil journal, but sometimes I also use like a Google Doc to journal. So that's I encourage a lot of moms, women especially, to do their mind dump in the morning. When you first wake up, just write about whatever is on your mind. If your morning doesn't work, then try the 5 minutes before bed.
All right, coming up next, our conversation on handling stress this holiday season continues. Up right now on news12.com, we have a guide, 6 tips to help you cope with stress. And remember, we want to hear from you. Join the conversation on Facebook.
You hear an echo on my end?
I did hear something weird, like audio-wise, but I couldn't tell you what it was. I just actually was nervous for a half a second that we were losing your audio in the middle.
So I have my microphone on the computer and the phone. Or should I turn it off?
I think you mute the phone, and then you'll hear me, but you will be broadcasting through the Zoom.
Is this better?
1, 2, 3. Just count to 3.
1, 2, 3.
Phil, is that better? Okay, he said sure.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Take what you say, Phil.
Let me just. Did you see the questions I sent you this morning? No? Okay, let me just read them to you really quick. You don't have to answer them. It's just so you know. Binky says, it's always hard this time of the year without my parents. And then we have planning. Last year I had money saved and put aside, and then all the shopping was done way in advance. I wrapped each gift as it came. I decorated as I went, but I had the tree up and the house ready weeks in advance. It was the most stress-free year I remember, but this year, not so much. Then I have... sorry. Nope, that's Michael too. That's not it. Then I oftentimes used to get jealous of my friends when they complained of annoying family reunions and weird uncles, always wishing that I could see my family more. So when the holiday came around, I would always feel lonely and that I wasn't good enough. And then we have, the only stressful thing about holidays for me is going back to school at the end of it. College student. Holidays are always very stressful between scrambling to get everything packed into a car, long hours of driving. Every year there's always the decision of what to do or which family member we should visit. Driving in a car with family. Dun, dun. All right. The holidays are definitely one of the most stressful times of the year. It's exhausting having to plan things, cook, and most of all, have guests over. And then we have, holidays should never be stressful. It's not shopping, spending money, and giving. It's not about shopping, spending money. Giving should be daily. Focus on family, love, and health. All other madness, online shopping, going to malls for lines, and buying stuff for people doesn't sell it for me. So that is what we will have in this section.
Okay.
30 seconds back right now. Is Kelly still in there?
I don't see her.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't mean much. It just means I don't see her.
All right, 10 seconds now. Welcome back to our live conversation on handling holiday stress. Of course, we answer your questions, so you can submit them now under the live stream of the show on our Facebook pages. Jumping right into those questions, Binky says, it's always hard around this time of year without my parents.
That's the hardest thing about the holidays is when you're not around who you wish you could be, especially if they're no longer with us. It's okay to take time to commemorate and to think about all the wonderful memories you may have and to acknowledge. Don't try to hide from the feelings or put them away. Let them be whatever they are for you.
All right, Michael says, planning. Last year, I had money saved, I put it aside, then all the shopping was done way in advance, and I wrapped each gift as it came, decorated as I went, but had the tree up and the house ready weeks in advance. It was the most stress-free year I remember. This year, not so much.
Well, that was beautiful, whatever you did last year. Right. Try to do as much as you can this year around. But that can't be your expectation because that's a very high goal. It's hard to achieve. And again, moderate your expectations with what you can do, what you want to do, and what you can afford.
Julia says, I often used to get jealous of my friends when they complained of annoying family reunions and weird uncles, always wishing that I could see my family more. So when the holidays came around, I would always feel lonely or that I wasn't good enough. And if you think about, for people who aren't able to see their family during the holidays, whether it's, because of distance or whatever the case may be, you would think that would make you feel so lonely.
It is a very hard time of the year in that respect too. But one thing I encourage you to do is to find the friends around you who are like family and to create gatherings that you want to have. And then find other times of the year when you can see your family. And again, moderating that expectation and not looking at whatever social media may be presenting or what you may be seeing on social media with other people, because everyone has their stuff, for lack of a better word. And you make it what you can make it for yourself.
JR says, the only stressful thing about the holidays for me is going back to school at the end of it. So it is true, when you have to go back to school. Although I kind of have a sinking suspicion that by the time it's time to go back, JR is going to be ready.
JR, know that it's going to be hard and moderate your expectations. I can't say that enough. I remember going back to school after this long break, and it was a tough transition. But the beautiful thing is within a couple of days, you'll be adjusted again.
Yeah, and it is weird when you come home, especially like that first time or if you study abroad and you see everything is the same, but you're not the same. The person Correct. Who comes back into that room, that bedroom, isn't the person who left it.
And celebrate that person because you just had an amazing experience or parts of it were amazing. And acknowledge that we have these experiences and we're not going to be the same. And you shouldn't be the same.
Yeah. Morgan says, holidays are always very stressful between scrambling to get everything packed to long hours of driving in the car. Every year, there's always the decision of what to do or which family members we should visit.
Again, be realistic in what you can handle and how much you can handle. And enlist, if you have children that are traveling, everybody gets a part in packing the car. And everybody gets a part in what they can do to make the travel a little bit doable, or maybe you're not going to invite all the family in one night, but you'll break it down over several nights. Again, break it down if it's too much and you can't handle that. Yeah. If you're feeling that stressed about it, that to me is a sign that you have to do something a little bit differently.
Lucas says the holidays are definitely one of the most stressful times of the year. It's exhausting having to plan things and cook, and most of all, have guests over. And there are a lot of people that struggle with that feeling of, everybody being there and, what's even safe to talk about anymore.
Uh, Group gatherings are always, you never know what you're going to get. But if it's too hard with, let's say, the cooking, and then have each person bring something and contribute to the meal so that it's not all on you. Obviously, a conversation that's going to happen is not something you can control, but you can distract. So you can bring up another topic or a question and maybe direct the conversation in another place.
All right, Larry says the holidays should never be stressful. It's not about shopping, spending money, and giving. Giving should be daily. Let's focus on family, love, and health. All the other madness, online shopping, going to malls for lines and buying things for people doesn't sell it for me.
Good for you. That is absolutely a great place to be. And if you can maintain that mindset and hold on to it, please do, and share with us how you're doing it so we can share in with you.
Yeah, and today I want to mention is Giving Tuesday. So we just had these, huge shopping days, your Black Friday and your Cyber Monday, but today is that day of giving back. And I think that's one of the other joys of the holiday season is taking that time to give back and how that feels in giving.
That is, and it's such a nice thing to do for yourself and for your children to join in it with you or to do it independently. And so you may decide that you're, as a family, going to gift less, but then use some of those resources to then contribute to someone else or some organization or charity or people within your community who are in need.
I also heard that it's important to schedule something fun for right after the holidays. So it's not like all of a sudden there's just nothing,
I have 2 birthdays that are coming up for my children. So their birthday parties are going to be in January because we need to look forward to that.
Absolutely. All right. You can look forward to coming up next, that 2-minute takeaway on handling your holiday stress. And of course, we do have those guides up there live right now for you on news12.com. Hello to everybody on Facebook. You know what I wanted to tell you about? So I have my Aunt Raelle, and every year she sends my children in the beginning of December money to donate to charity, and then she gives them a card with a return stamp on it that says for Christmas all she wants to know is how they spent the money and why they chose what they chose. So we sit down and we think about it, and it's so interesting because she's been doing this since they were maybe 4 or 5, like for a really long time. And just deciding like, okay, so what do we want to do with this money? And so and they typically never decide on the same thing. So, what my daughter wants to do is one thing and my son wants to do something else. And, it's, I think, such a great lesson in how wonderful it feels to give back and for them to say like, wow, I have this power to help someone. And how am I going to use that? So I don't know, for anybody listening, that's one of the great things about my aunt.
Well, she's got it, and she's had it for a long time.
Yeah, she's definitely had it. All right, so
she's keeping the bigger picture,
right? Yeah, it's always so cool, and I'm wondering.
It's so easy to get caught up.
Yes. And I remember one year going because my son decided he wanted to donate gloves and mittens to like the homeless shelter. And so we had gone, and then I said, okay, but if we're going, why don't we also just like clean out the closet? Do we have coats that we're not wearing anymore or whatever? So by the time we went there, we had so much. So it started out as like, let's buy new mittens and gloves. But then by the time we went, it was like, we felt like we were Santa Claus, and he was, walking in there like, oh, we've got all this stuff, which was just so wonderful.
Right. So I think what I'm hearing you say is finding that balance between giving to others and gifting, but also giving on a larger scale.
Right. And I think that's like, especially for kids who could get so caught up in what I want, to say there's so many people I could help. 5 seconds now.
And that becomes your tradition.
Welcome back. It is time now for our 2-minute takeaway on handling this holiday stress. And Dr. Liz, I know you wanted to talk about this time of high expectations.
It is such a time of high expectation for all of us. And I can't emphasize enough, really think about what's important and don't keep adding the traditions on top of each other. Make sure you build in some downtime for you and your family, and self-care more than ever is very important right now.
And then really, I guess, setting yourself up for success when it comes to what you will do as a family, divorced or not.
Absolutely. Really look at your calendar, plan ahead. If you're kind of person who likes to wing it, this is a time of the year when you really want to take a look and think about what you can fit into the calendar realistically, especially if you're co-parenting and you don't have your child with you 100% of the time.
And I wonder, should we be limiting our time on social media right now and just maybe make a pledge to try to be more focused on us and not what everybody else is doing?
I think it's such a big comparison point. And remember, what you see on social media is not always 100% reality based. So put that in the back of your head. And if you need to, delete those apps for the month if you want to, and free yourself up from that and see how you feel in January.
All right, Dr. Liz, thank you so much for joining us and getting to so many important topics today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, as those day-to-day expenses continue to rise, more of us are taking on debt. Overall, credit card balances jumped 15% in the third quarter of this year, largest year-over-year increase in more than 20 years. So tomorrow, we've got a financial expert helping us get out of debt.